This came out later in the press conference. Fluto asked this, I think. The team can take him to arbitration again.
Yes.
He took us to arbitration, just for clarity's sake.
Okay. So like, that's a shot, which it's probably technically right, but the reason he took you to arbitration is because you refused to pay him. So, like, did he take you to arbitration, or were you lowballing him and he said, well, let's go to arbitration because you guys are cheaping out on what I'm owed?
Yeah, it takes two to tango.
Right. And so for him to put that on Swayman, they're up there yucking it up. And I know he's like, wow, I've said this to Jeremy, so maybe it's nothing. That felt like a shot to me. Like, oh, yeah, he took us to arbitration. Just so you know, we didn't take him to arbitration. He took us. And it's like, I think that's just...
It's parsing words.
It's semantics. Yeah, exactly.
It's also, I think, evidence that there's no love lost here whatsoever between this player and this team. I just think that that's very clear at this point. You could tell last summer when you heard Swayman talking about it and how he felt about the arbitration. And this is a guy, Swayman, now...
Well, you say the team, you mean the front office,
yeah, the organization.
not his
I'm
teammates.
talking about the organization, not his team. He loves his teammates, but like the franchise. The franchise and Swayman, I think there is a definite disconnect there. And as we got to know Swayman a little bit more this season, you heard the way he talks. Very different from how he was talking about his relationship with the organization last summer, and I think that that's going to continue. Like, now he has a much stronger leg to stand on based on the way that he played, and if the team continues to sort of dink around with it, it seems to me like I was the one talking about demanding a trade if they went back to the goalie rotation. I still think there's a little bit of resentment there from Swayman and his camp. I believe that.
Okay, here's another reason to stick it to the Bruins at the negotiating table. It's more likely they'll move on from Ullmark. Let me hear Don Sweeney on Ullmark, which I actually was very encouraged by this answer.
No conversation I'm going to have, with a player in terms of what we're trying to do until we have to have a conversation is really going to get public. And I hope you all respect that, because ultimately that's what a player, as a former player, I would hope would happen. We're going to find a landing spot with Jeremy Swayman, and if we can make the math work, we're going to have the best tandem. If we can't, we're going to explore, or Linus, may come to us and change his mind.
Oh,
that may occur as well. Right now, he's really happy. We were very happy to sign Linus, and in a perfect world, we would keep the tandem because I think it's damn good. But we're going to explore opportunities. My phone's going to ring. I'm going to make calls. That's just what the job requires. And, fortunately, at times, unfortunately, things start to leak out. And that's your job. You guys do a hell of a job of figuring those things out, piecing them together. Some guys are really wrong, but it doesn't stop you from throwing it out there, and that's okay. It's good for the business overall. It's good for hockey in terms of drawing, attention and eyes to it. So I understand it.
Jimmy Murphy catching strays there. So when it comes to the Bruins and Don Sweeney with his media lectures, that's nauseating. I agree. Ryan had a good line in my ear.
So much of that from this club.
From him? Ryan had a good line in my ear. Don Sweeney says we're going to make calls, plural. He's like, or just the one call you made at the deadline. How many calls do you actually make on Linus? But good. That's another reason for Swayman to stick it to him. Go get $8 million, because then they're not going to want to bring Ullmark back. If you get 6, 6.5, 7, they might be more interested in bringing. So stick it to them. They screwed you last year. They're talking about how you took them to arbitration. Screw them and get Ullmark out of here while you're at it.
I like how in the same breath he's like talking about these conversations as if they're so sacred and private.
Yeah.
And just moments before he's saying, well, Swayman took us to arbitration. It's like, so which is it? Like it's sacred and private and you respect your players so much. You're not going to talk about the negotiations that go on behind closed doors. Unless it's Swayman, in which case you're going to say he's the one who's bending us over the barrel, not the other way around.
Yep. So, look, I was actually, believe it or not, encouraged by that answer, because to me that pretty much tells you Ullmark is gone. What about that line that maybe Linus changes his mind? Do you think that's wishful thinking? And like he's trying to talk that into existence, or do you think that's an indication maybe Linus has changed his mind?
I don't think Linus has changed his mind. I think that they're probably both looking at it. I'd say if I was like Ullmark's agent, what would I be saying to him here? All right, if you really want to stay here, they seem to be committed to paying this other guy, so you're going to have to take a pay cut if that's what you really want. I think that's what he means about changing his mind. And I think at this point, if that's what Ullmark wants to do, like, you just won the Vezina. You won it very, very recently. And now you want to take a pay cut to stay here and be a backup? Like, that's ridiculous to me. That's just such a very... in terms of, like, a career... I know. Won't the union get upset?
Yeah, I don't know that you can do that in the NA. I don't know that you can rip up his contract. And so, like, look, I think he's gone. And he should have accepted a trade last year. to actually start in a playoff run, because now he's going to get sent to one of those places he doesn't want to go unless he waives his no movement clause. And I think he screwed himself. So that's where we're at with the goaltending situation.